Donald Trump was indicted this week in what feels like the 5 millionth attempt by the establishment to bring him down. Is Trump actually guilty, or is an autocratic establishment attempting to imprison a political dissident, as we've seen with Alexei Navalny and Nelson Mandela? Of course, I'm not saying Trump is like Nelson Mandela. Nelson Mandela openly advocated for terrorism. He didn't just send a couple of vaguely worded tweets. The list of accusations against Trump is as high as Hunter Biden at 4 a.m. after a night on the crack pipe, accepting overseas money, collusion with Russia, sexual misconduct, defamation, falsifying business records, paying Stormy Daniels, tax fraud, obstruction of justice, mishandling classified files, associating with white supremacists, election interference, and fomenting a violent insurrection. I'm surprised they haven't also charged him with non-payment of his TV licence and running in the corridor. Is it fair? While I don't think that Trump should run for president, it feels like he is being penalised for things that Democrat leaders get away with. Biden had classified documents in his garage. Hillary used a secret server for classified emails. Bill Clinton paid off a woman for sexual harassment, giving Paula Jones $850,000. Although true to his reputation as a deal-maker, Trump paid a much better-looking woman, Stormy Daniels, only $130,000. Maybe Bill Clinton should have read The Art of the Deal before taking his trousers off. And Trump is accused of not accepting the election results. Well, I seem to remember in 2016, Hillary didn't accept Trump's victory, and in fact, everyone on the left spent the next 4 years proudly protesting that Trump wasn't their president. Biden described Trump as an illegitimate president, and in 2020, Hillary even told Biden not to concede the election under any circumstances. And let's face it, every president clings onto the curtains and has to be taken out of the White House like Al Pacino at the end of Scarface, although only a Biden White House would have that plate of cocaine for Hunter. The January 6th Capitol riots hang over everything as Trump's nastiest moment. We're told that they were a serious attempt at a violent insurrection. But come on, I've been on stag do's more violent than that. There were little old ladies waving flags and men in fancy dress. It's the only violent insurrection in history that politely stayed inside the velvet guide ropes. The idea that this ragtag bunch of fruitcakes armed with flags and horned helmets were a serious threat to the most militarily powerful nation on earth. Pull the other one. Insurrections need tanks, Apache helicopters, cruise missiles, all the stuff that the American government happens to have. In fact, if you do want to commit an insurrection, you generally need the US government on your side. Then you can topple any government you want, from Guatemala to Iraq. It's obvious that there's a two-tier criminal justice system in America. And with Trump about to be tried by a judge installed by Obama, it doesn't look like that's going to change. Interestingly, the charges Trump were indicted for this week don't include inciting the riot. They relate to his attempts to overturn the election results. Now, I don't defend Trump for this. He clung on far too long and embarrassed himself. But 2020 was a unique election with a lot of postal voting and electronic voting. And we've seen in Russia how this can allow vote rigging. And there was that suspicious jump in Biden's results after an early lead by Trump. So while I don't believe that the election was stolen in this way, I can definitely understand Trump making the most of the doubts. And look, I don't agree with Trump that the Democrats used electoral fraud to steal the election. And I don't want Trump as president. In his first term, he didn't start a single war. And I've got shares in weapons manufacturers. For the sake of my retirement plan, the USA needs to invade another country every 3 years. But in 2020, the Democrats colluded with the government agencies and the media establishment and big tech to bury the Hunter Biden laptop story, evidence of Joe Biden's son smoking crack with prostitutes, which could have swayed the election. Despite being true, it was classed as disinformation, and tweets about it and stories about it were silenced, including in the New York Post, one of the oldest newspapers in America. When we talk about elections being stolen and democracy being subverted, this is what we're talking about. The American people see it too, and they'll be the real jury for Trump and Biden.